Hey everybody, this is Matt with mathsmath.com. Thanks for joining us here today as we talk about the coordinate plane and how to graph points. We're in the Common Core Math Standard of the number system, and we're going to be looking at specifically today about integers and different numbers and how to graph them on a coordinate plane. All right, let's get to it. Our guiding question is, how can we use integers to help us locate something on a map? Well, with integers, it really provides a greater picture of what we're doing now, having positive and negative numbers to help us find something. All right, so for example, here is a map. We're going to be using a map. Here's a map of Colorado, and the way I've set it up is that there are negative numbers here going down. Remember, think about negative means going down, and then positive numbers going to the right. So you can locate things on a map by knowing the particular coordinates. This is 0, 0 right here. All right, Colorado Springs is located at 7, -4, which means you go right 7 and then down -4. Remember, positive is up and to the right, negative is down and to the left. All right, so how can we use a map to find points in a coordinate plane? Well, maps are really helpful, and knowing your location there is extremely helpful. If you've ever tried to play maybe a video game where you've got X and Y or Z coordinates and you're trying to find yourself on a map, they will be really helpful. You have to be able to know where to go based on your coordinates and maybe where you're trying to go for something else. Well, on graph paper or something like that, why don't you create a coordinate plane of your room or something else, maybe a map of your house or your neighborhood. Just make a quick sketch and be sure to include the x-axis, the y-axis, and the origin. All right, how difficult was that? Was that pretty easy for you? Well, if you're not sure what the x-axis and the y-axis is and the origin, let's get some definitions there, okay? Well, a coordinate plane. First of all, coordinate plane. Coordinate plane is a graph that we're going to put together with two axes, and they are going to create a map-like diagram, okay? It's the intersection of a vertical and horizontal number line, okay? So imagine taking one number line, putting it left and right, and then the other number line and putting it up and down, and it creates a map-like structure. So something like this, okay? You've got one number line here, right? And then the other number line right there. It's broken down into 4 different sections. Okay, and then you've got a whole bunch of different things here that you'll be labeling. Let's do the first thing. The first thing is the x-axis. Okay, the x-axis is the horizontal line in the middle of the coordinate plane. It's that horizontal line in the middle of the coordinate plane. It's this guy right here. This is the x-axis. It's horizontal, and it's always right there. It's going to be labeled. It'll have an X by it usually, and then it'll have the positive numbers on the right. Remember, positive is right, and negative is left. Negative numbers on the left side, okay? The other axis there is called the y-axis. X is horizontal, Y is vertical. It's the vertical number line in the middle of the coordinate plane. And just like the x-axis, there's positive and negative numbers, where you've got positive is on the up side, and the negative is on the down side, right? Just like right is positive, so is up. The other thing you'll have is a quadrant. Quadrant meaning 4. A quadrant is one of the 4 sections in the coordinate plane, and they each have their own specific number. They all fall along a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if we think about it here, look here, quadrant 1, this is the first quadrant that you ever learned about when you were graphing, both positive numbers and positive numbers there. Quadrant 1 is the first one, that's how I remember it. And then we go counterclockwise. So this is 2, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of those quadrants have different qualities about them. Notice quadrant 1 is positive, positive. Quadrant 2 is negative, positive. Quadrant 3 is the opposite of 1. It's negative, negative. And quadrant 4 is positive, negative. Those are good things to write down. Now the other thing that we're going to look at with a coordinate plane is called the origin. The origin, and the way I remember this is got a big fat 0 right there, and the origin is just the middle. It's the intersection. It's point 0, 0. Treat that O in the origin as a 0, and it's bam, point 0, 0. Okay, not that big deal. It's that intersection there of the 2 number lines, and it's our point 0, 0. All right, so let's look at this. We've got some different points here in different cities on this map. We've got Gunnison here, which is about 3.5 over to the right, and then down about 5, right? Okay. These are called coordinate points. 0, 0 is the origin, remember? And that's a coordinate point. You always have x and then y, x and then y, x and then y, and you put parentheses around them and a comma, and that's called a coordinate point. Ordered pair. Coordinate point, ordered pair. Same thing. Ordered pair, it's an x and y. X is first, then y. You always go left and right. Remember, left is negative, right's positive. And then you go up or down, the y amount. So up is positive, down is negative, okay? All right, so what would be the coordinates for Denver? See Denver there? What would be the coordinates? We always want to go left and right, remember? So you go over to Denver, bam, it's about 6.5, right? 6.5 to the right. And then we're going to go down about 3. So Denver would be 6.5 and negative 3. Okay, 6.5 negative 3. Get the idea? Find Vale. Vale's right there. We're going to go right about 4.25, and then we're going to go down about negative 3. All right, so you can find things on a map very easily by knowing the coordinates. And if you know that Gunnison is at 3.5, negative 5, you know that Vale is at 4.25 and negative 3, I can tell you how to get from one to the other. You got to go up a little bit, and then you got to go to the right. Using these coordinates will really help you find your location, whatever you're trying to do. Okay. All right. Which point corresponds to these ordered pairs, and which quadrant or axis are the points on? So the first one, negative 3, 4. Okay, is that left or right, up or down? Okay, well it's negative, so it's got to be left or down, and it's the first one, so it's left. And then this is negative 4, so we're going to go down 4. So start from the middle. You always come to the origin. Go left 3, and then down 4. Bam, you're at B. Okay. Now, what quadrant is it in? Remember, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So it's B's in quadrant 4. Next one, 3, 4. Well, that's easy. Right 3, and then up 4. Remember, you go left to right first, and then up and down. So right 3, up 4 is A. What quadrant? Quadrant 1. And then what about this guy? Negative 6, 5. Left to right, up or down 6? Left 6, and then up or down 5? Up 5. It's going to give us C. And what quadrant is it in? It's in 2. All right? Now, look at these points. Why don't you find these points and tell me what axis or quadrant they're in and what is that point? All right, did you get them? Notice if it has a 0, it's either going to be on one of the axes. Okay, that's the trick there. If it's got a 0, then it's going to either be on the y or the x axis. And if y equals 0, think about where y equals 0. Y equals 0 right there, it's going to be on the x axis. And then if x equals 0, it's the opposite. X equals 0 right here, it's going to be on the y axis. Okay, so if y equals 0, it's on the x. If x equals 0, it's on the y. So this one, negative 6, 0. Negative 6 left, that's G, and it's on the x axis. 5 is 0, negative 6, down to F. It's on the y-axis. Negative 4, 2. Negative 4 up 2. It's D. It's in quadrant 2. 6, negative 1. 6, down 1. It's in quadrant 4, and it's point E. All right. Well, let's pretend you're a submarine captain, and you're in the Navy, and you would want to know how to read a map. Well, you're going to have to be able to describe your position to the naval base and tell them where you've launched from. All right. First, tell me, what's the coordinates of New Springs, the city of New Springs on this island? Each of these is 1. This is 1. This is 1. This is 1. We're going to be at negative 2, 1. All right, and what are the 3 coordinates the submarine is on? It's on right there, there, and there. So we're at, the 3 coordinates will be negative 1, negative 3, 0, negative 3, and then 1, negative 3. Well, the right part of the boat here is the front. Describe in some sort of equation or expression the front coordinate would need to go to New Springs. What would this, if this boat was going to turn, how many would it have to go up and how many would it have to be going over? Well, we'd have to take it 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd have to go 4 up, positive 4, and then left 1, 2, 3. Left 3, negative 3. Okay, so I have to go up 4, and then left 3. All right, why don't you do this? Would you list all the coordinates for each of these submarines? Having trouble? Remember, x and y is first, and x is left and right first, and then y is up and down next, okay? All right, here are your coordinates of all those different boats. All right, how you doing with your guiding question? You're able to answer this now of how we can use integers to help us locate something on the map? Notice in the past you've done just positive numbers. Now you're doing negative numbers, and it just makes that graph so much more bigger and so much easier for you to handle and to move around on. All right, well, that's it for talking about the coordinate plane. This is Matt with mathsmath.com. Thanks for joining us. Check us out on Facebook at Solving Maths Problems and on Twitter at Maths Math. And enjoy math and submarines.